Hi and welcome back to the channel where we are going to be jumping into some technical analysis today for ICP. ICP has seen some pretty interesting structures emerge with some downward price pressure from its resistance on the 7th of June and dropping by 25.9%. As I get into today's video, guys, if you do find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, why don't you consider subscribing and staying up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Guys, let's get right down into the nitty-gritty of today's video. So here we have ICP paired up with USDT. We're on the 1-day Binance chart and we do have our downward trend. There's a few things here that were interesting. We did have lower highs and higher lows on this daily time frame, right? Finding support on its 200-day EMA. Now that exponential moving average as support was lost on the 7th of June as we started to see some downward price pressure as resistance was found on the 50 EMA, 50 SMA downward trend line as indicated here on the chart. We were talking in the previous video about the price action moving down to $9.14 to $9.99, basically under $10. And well, we can see that we've had a lot of price action slippage today. I have actually been dollar cost averaging into ICP. If you remember, you already know this. And today's low is $9.63 so far. I still look at ICP with the potential for more slippage to the downside, but this looks like a great place for potential reversal. So we're going to be taking a look at ICP here and whether or not this is going to hold or whether we actually have more slippage to the downside. So let's go ahead and break down the current structured move here for ICP. We can see that we had a little run to the downside, finding support on its 200-day EMA on the 31st of May. This is our wave one, okay, our first kind of wave within ICP's structure. We rallied up again on the 7th of June to a high of $12.99. Now, this area didn't last all that long, and we did, in fact, see us slip down a little bit further. Now, unfortunately, today's price action has pushed us down deeper than 1.618 at $9.75.7. This is really important to understand because it does mean that we are going to see even more downward price pressure for ICP, in my opinion. Let me show you why. Okay, under normal circumstances, you would look at this as a three-wave pattern, but this has gone down so deep that it's actually gone past 1.618 times that first initial drop. That essentially now makes this a trend on a smaller time frame to the downside, meaning we'll look for a wave 4 up and then a further fifth wave move to the downside, meaning that we can still see some more price action here to the downside, where we are going to be targeting out that $9.14 in my opinion. Now, how high is that wave 4 going to go? Assuming that we've already kind of bottomed out here, we can make a few assumptions that we're likely to move up by 38.2% approximately. Let me show you that on our Fibonacci sequencing here. So that would basically put us at around $10.79. Now, it's possible that this does rally up a little bit more. Normally, this goes up between 38.2 and 50%. So we'll go ahead and mark that on the price chart just here. So that basically will be $10.79 to $11.18.7. That's going to be the area of interest for the wave 4. If we see that, and I'm going to go and put it on the worst case scenario here, it will then lead us down into a final fifth wave, which will kind of bottom out in this lower range between $8.78 and $9.10. If I go ahead and clear off some of this noise, you can then start to see that we'll have the wave 4 and then the wave 5. Now, of course, if wave 4 doesn't push as high, wave 5 will not drop as low. They do relate to each other. Now, the importance of this, it still puts us right inside that realm of a three-wave movement where it would be a 3-3-5. A, B, and C structure here for ICP. This is a part of a much bigger play here, as you can kind of see towards our lower range of $7 to $8.30. This is also a part of a much bigger play of a three-wave drop, three-wave up, three-wave drop, and again, it's a 3-3-5. So taking a look at everything for ICP, it's very corrective, and that's really important to kind of note that. What I mean by a corrective pattern, of which we are seeing here, even though we do have a 5-wave count, is that it is not a trend. Okay, it's not trending to the downside. It is just a corrective pattern to the downside. And this is because we've seen a very significant surge to the upside that we normally see these kind of cooling off. So this is not anything unusual. It's nothing to be kind of too scared of. This is the opportunity to be dollar cost averaging, building out those positions in ICP ahead of what happens next, which will be a fantastic run to the upside. So taking a look at everything that's going on here on the daily time frame from an Elliott wave theory point of view, I'm not terribly too concerned. Throw on smart money concepts and you can see that this comes down into the discounted area. This discounted area is where the maximum value can be found. That is highlighted with this green area, basically between $8.62 and $9.78. There is a fair value gap just over here as well that we do need to be aware of at $7.64 up to a high of $9.62. These fair value gaps that you see getting stacked up here are interesting areas in the price chart where liquidity was missing. And basically what that means is there wasn't enough selling pressure within this little gap that price had to surge up higher to find the people who were willing to sell ICP. Okay, so these are driven from large buy orders typically where there's insufficient liquidity to fill those buy orders. So you see these green pockets in the chart. Now price typically likes to go down and fill out the fair value gaps, but there's no guarantee that it does play out that way. It's just a part of smart money concepts where essentially you tend to find that price likes to put liquidity where liquidity was missing previously. So knowing that smart money concepts is still in a bullish pattern overall, was in a bullish pattern, has most recently taken that bullish idea and flipped it into a bearish pattern at the moment. This was confirmed on the 11th of June when we started to see some slippage to the downside. Okay, so although we have a change of character into a bearish state of play, as indicated with Elliott wave theory, it's not a major concern because we do not have a trend to the downside, and we haven't also got any confirmation that our bearish structure stands. We're going to be looking for BOS indicators here to see whether or not there's a break of the structure that was previously bullish to confirm that we have now turned bearish. But for now, I'm not terribly too concerned. We do have a weak low indicating that we are still looking for further slippage to the downside, as indicated with Elliott wave theory, with the fourth wave up and the fifth wave down. This is also an indication of a strong high and equilibrium that is sat up here as well within this area of selling volume. So don't get me wrong, I do look at the chart through a positive lens to say this is a great dollar cost averaging opportunity. We've come down quite nicely. We're not in a trend. We've got a corrective pattern, but smart money concepts is giving us a pretty good idea that there's a lot of resistances and that the structures have turned more bearish most recently. So just be aware that it's not going to be a picnic trying to push our way out of these areas, and we are going to find lots of resistance and lots of areas of concern for the short to medium term. Long term, though, I am pretty confident in the kind of aspect of where I think ICP is going to be going. On our stochastic RSI on the daily time frame, plenty of momentum to the upside, alongside that of the weekly time frame. If we go up into the weekly time frame, you can see the stochastic RSI is down in that oversold area and has been for quite a few weeks so far. Don't get me wrong, we can stay down here for a few more weeks yet, and so I'm still looking over the next kind of 4, maybe even 8 weeks as still being in this kind of corrective action for ICP. Gives us huge opportunity to dollar cost average and build out those positions even more. Now, if I bring up the weekly chart, we obviously have been monitoring and checking out the idea of an X wave pattern, taking us down into that $7 to $8 range, also an area where we did see liquidity being missing on the weekly chart. This gives us the idea of a big 3-wave movement to the upside, where we are going to be targeting out somewhere between $53 and $85 on the conservative side. Anything up higher than $184 is going to be the impulsive trigger point where we do see further surge to the upside for ICP's price action. I have no indication or expectation that we do that, so I am looking at this through a more conservative lens around that $53 to $85 range for ICP. Now, this might not be exactly what you want to hear. You may be looking for, previous all-time highs to get broken. I don't think that's going to be the case, specifically when we saw such a fantastic launch for ICP. But this does also give us an idea of a longer-term bullish market for ICP over multiple years. This, to me, looks like a very interesting structure so far. And if we do move up towards that $53 to $85, it is the previous area of resistance that we had over here in September of 2021. Now, this is really important because it could potentially form in a multi-year cycle the idea of a cup and handle pattern, meaning the next bearish market basically just forms out that little handle before we get into that next surge to the upside, meaning that we might see over the next few years a really strong run for ICP up towards $748. Okay, long-term targets, of course, something that you have to be very mindful of in the longer term. But for the most part, as I said earlier, I'm not terribly too concerned about this correction. It was very much needed in the space. We're looking to find support on the weekly time frame around the 50 simple moving average. Maybe even as more data comes in here, we'll find support on a 200 EMA as well. You can let me know what your thoughts are on all of this in the comments down below. If you have found today's video useful, smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe. And if you haven't checked out this video right here, you want to to stay up to date with what's going on in the crypto space, give it a click.